Hello, welcome to Taurus Tourist Tarot. As always, we are going to ask the question, what wants to come forward for the collective? What is important for the collective to know right now? What is important for the collective to know right now? What wants to come forward for the collective? What is the message that wants to come forward for the collective? There's definitely some interesting times that we've been in for sure. Okay, so let's see. We have the Ace of Cups, the Judgment card, and the Ten of Swords, and Justice. Okay. So Ace of Cups is like, I love the Ace of Cups. The Ace of Cups, I always feel unconditional love from the Ace of Cups. It's definitely an energy. I call unconditional love Christ energy. So I really do feel like the Ace of Cups represents that Christ energy, right? In its complete light form. Oh, and by the way, this is called Moon Tarot. Deviant Moon Tarot by Patrick Valenza. I really like this deck. It's very interesting. Okay, so the Ace of Cups, I really feel is a card of unconditional love. And I do feel that this is the space really that, that we really need to move more into. And so what does that mean? So it really means to me that it really boils down to oneness, right? And it's about knowing yourself as the other self. It is, knowing that every expression that you could possibly think of is an expression of the divine. They're all different expressions of the divine. And we are all going through our own journeys. We've all been born into different circumstances. We've all come into this world with different blueprints, whether it be family or money or trauma or whatever it is. And so it's really important to find that space of oneness where we can recognize ourselves in others, but also others in ourselves. And that even means like the ugly parts, right? Like we can actually see some of the darker sides of people and, recognize how that darkness kind of plays out in us as well. Maybe not in the same form, but definitely energetically, it still is reflected in us in a lot of ways, right? And so this kind of comes back to the idea of like doing shadow work. So I think a lot of people on the journey, part of the process is we first get exposed to like, oh, love and light, we want to be in love and light. But then as we further ourselves down the journey, we really start to realize that it's not just love and light. It is also about the shadow. And to truly know thyself, we have to know thy shadow. And the shadow exists in everyone, And the job is not to deny the shadow, but rather to integrate it, to be able to shine light on it, to look at it, to see how it manifests in different ways. So the Ace of Cups here is just really speaking of that unconditional love, right? And the Judgment card, for me, the Judgment card is the awakening card. This is the card of being called to awaken, being called to expand your consciousness, being called to, align with a higher knowing. And that higher knowing really is love, is unconditional love, right? And I say unconditional love because, sometimes we can throw around the word love and, oh, I love you, I love that person. But when things get hard, when that person like starts to perhaps disappoint or, act in ways that do not feel, great, then it's like where does that love go, and people are quick to get rid of it. Now, is that really love? No. Unconditional love is loving someone through their pain, through their darkness. It's loving yourself through your pain and through your darkness. And so I really do feel like the judgment card is the card that is calling us, the collective, to really to love, unconditionally, ourselves and others, right? Through our ugliness, through their ugliness. Love those who need that love the most. Love those who are in their darkest expression at the moment, right? That's when love becomes, so much more of an action than just words or, fluffy hearts and roses. That's the Christ energy. That is a Christ consciousness. And I really do feel like this Ten of Swords, or of course, tens are always about endings and beginnings. And so, the Ten of Swords is like really putting an end to these swords that we stab into ourselves, that we hurt ourselves with, this self judgment and this self hatred and this, just all of these negative words and thoughts that we can put on ourselves sometimes. I know that in my personal process of going through this process of becoming more conscious, more aware, and it is a process, right? Like the destination is ever moving, the end goal is ever moving. It's, you're always, on the path towards it, but never quite actually reaching it, But I know for me, when I became aware of my own self-talk, wow, when I really started listening to my own self-talk, I started like realizing the awful things that I would say to myself, So I really had to put a stop to that. And so anytime you have these very negative things pop in, oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, I make the dumbest mistakes, or oh my God, I'm so ugly, whatever it is, right? Like immediately shut it down and replace it with something positive. And that is not like being in disillusionment. What it is really like knowing your own divinity and acting as if you know your own divinity, right? Okay. And this to me is where justice comes in. Like that really is the justice that is needed in this world, is for us to really recognize our own divinity, to really um, let go of negative thoughts, negative ideas, all of these things that are just so self-deprecating, and move more into a space of unconditional love for ourselves and thus for others. For me personally, again, like I feel like the process, and for everybody, I believe it's different, right? Like whatever your process is. For me, my process was I really had to understand what it meant to love myself unconditionally before I could fully love anyone else unconditionally, right? Like how could I claim to love someone unconditionally when I didn't fully know what that meant, by going through the process of like looking at all of my own darkness, looking at all of my own shadow, and just filling it up with love, Um, so like this, I feel, is the medicine. Like the Justice card is just really speaking to me of medicine. This is the medicine that we need in the world right now. Alrighty, so here's to self-love and loving yourself in the deepest possible ways, to really embracing that Christ consciousness and just really spreading love. Okay, aloha.